Live from the Talking Joe studios. It's Talking Joe.
Talking Joe is on the air.
Hey, it's me, Mark, and welcome to Talking Joe, the G.I. Joe Comics podcast. Now, today we will be talking about G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, issue 329, which was just only released a couple of days ago. It came out on Wednesday, June the 10th, 2026. The synopsis for this issue was, Is G.I. Joe's most dangerous enemy one of their own? So we'll find out as we investigate this issue, but I will not be doing it alone. As always, I'll be joined by my co-host. It's a Real American Tim. It's Tim Finn.
Hello, Mark, listeners, viewers.
Hello,
G.I. Joe fan?
Tim. You got a comic.
I do
It's
have
amazing.
a comic. 2 days ago. This came out just 2 days ago.
Yeah, so we don't normally go live on a Friday. There's a bunch of stuff going on this weekend, so I figured instead of having a skip week or just making our lives complicated, let's just do it on a different day. Let's record on a Friday and go out live, and it's all news as it happens in real time. So,
Hey, what's that comic over your left shoulder? That's not issue 4 of the Center Holds, which also came out this week on Wednesday. That's issue 3, but I'll forgive you.
only issue 3. Yeah.
Folks, I have a comic book that I put together, written by that G.I. Joe guy, Larry Hama, and drawn by that G.I. Joe guy, Mark Bright. And you folks, ask your local comics retailer for The Center Holds. It is a 4-issue miniseries. It's super heroic, and issue 4, the finale, just came out.
Very good. This is not a deep dive about Center Holds. It is a deep dive about G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, issue 329. If you've not read it, do not fret, because we will be spoiler-free until the point that we get past the gallery. So we will signal the spoilers to begin at that point. But yeah, as we're live, you can join in and comment live as well. Like Joe, who sort of is commenting live, but actually commented a few hours ago in advance of being live. It's Checkpoint Alpha. And it's Rob from G.I. Joe Netherlands. Made it just in time to enjoy the show live. Whoop, whoop. Have a great show. I think that might be the first time we've seen a live comment from Rob. So that's great over there in the Netherlands, in a good time zone. It's probably, I'm guessing, 8 p.m., just after 8 p.m. In their time. Whereas on the West Coast of America, it will be much earlier for G-Unit, Greg Augustin, who is busy promoting his latest Kickstarter. It is the Cobra edition of the After Action Report Command Files. Just recently released was the cover art by that there Mark Pennington. Have you seen that one yet? It looks very good, Tim.
Yes, it's a bunch of Cobra bad guys. Some close, some further away, with some sort of Monument Valley of, mesas and mountains in the background. A match for the art that Pennington did with all the good guys.
Mm-hmm. And they've double dipped. I think there's Storm Shadow appears as a good guy and a bad guy. Very
good.
Right. So next up, let's get into some news. So G.I. Joe Real American Hero issue 329 was out this week, but that was not the only thing out this week. Also out on New Comic Book Day this week was Transformers issue 33. There's a G.I. Joe Easter egg in this one, I think, or a guest appearance. No, I don't know that there is. I'm thinking ahead to the preview that I've seen of issue 34. which also was just released.
It can be hard to keep track of the 5 different comics that are of great interest to us, based on Hasbro brands coming from one company, between what just came out and then what's coming out in a few months and what's getting announced even further in advance. What about that comic book that just came out?
Mask came out also this last week, and yesterday we dropped our review episode of it. So yeah, if you've not yet caught up with Talking Joe, there is another new episode covering Mask issue number 1. With issue 1 coming out, one of the things that was released was a blind bag. So it came in a little plastic bag, the cover of which is on the screen at the moment. You open that up and you can get a variant cover, sort of in various distributions, but
some of the common ones or the rare ones. That's what you mean.
Exactly. But the grand reveal this week, as people began to open them, was that it was not just variants. There was other comics in there as well, including Mask Issue 2. So potentially some people just bought one Mask blind bag, took it home, opened it up, found that they've got Mask Issue number 2, and you have to go back to the comic shop and buy issue number 1.
Now, this issue 2 on the front cover says Ultra Rare Advanced Edition. So it is not a replica. It is not like they printed issue 2 and pulled aside some copies to put in the blind bag for issue 1. This is a different edition of issue 2 when we're talking about the cover. And it is a foil cover. So
super fancy.
So if you see a JPEG of it on the computer or on eBay, it's foil, and it says Ultra Rare Advanced Edition on the bottom.
They did the same thing with Battle Beast when they had the blind bag for that as well.
Yes, and that one also either came with issue 1, some variant, issue 2, a completely different comic book that was related, or a completely different comic book that was related. So where are we going with this, Mark, with the other 2 reveals for Mask number... Oh, there we go. The Mask number 1 blind bag reveal, the first of 2 crazy reveals. Mark, tell us what this is.
It is Mask Origins issue 1 with a brand new cover by Pi Pa. This reprints and collects together the first appearances of Mask and Venom in the Energon universe. So all of those prologue pages that they had in the pages of G.I. Joe, featuring Matt Tracker from G.I. Joe and the Energon universe, and then all of those Miles Mayhem sort of little sub-stories happening in the pages of Transformers, written by Kirkman with art by Dan Mora. Those are all collected here, so you get the complete little prologue story from...
Would we also get pages from the 2025 Energon Universe special? Because is that where
I am imagining
Clutch,
so.
That's where Clutch first sees Matt Tracker. It was 13 months ago that this started. Speaking of Monument Valley, this is a very nice cover here. It's Matt Tracker, arms folded, wearing his mask, standing on Thunderhawk. Yellow sky above him with orange, light orange mountains and mesas behind him, and a cracked orange ground below him. This is really smart. I wish that's part of me wishes that somehow this is impossible, but a freebie that stores could now give out a week later, because people who buy Mask number 1 may not understand all the stuff that's come before it. At the same time, it's not a big ask if you are trying out the 4th Energon Universe title to expect someone to have already read some issues of Transformers and G.I. Joe, or to be planning on getting those in, collected edition. And also, that almost assumes that Mask is sort of a bigger deal than G.I. Joe and Transformers. And I feel like more people are reading G.I. Joe and Transformers that without a a fun stunt like variant covers in a blind bag would be going after mask number one. Anyway, you know, in another universe, this is just like a PDF that they put online for free, or like a freebie that they distribute to stores. I'm sorry, this sounds like in some way I think that this is not a worthy surprise comic book in the blind bag, and I think it is very much a worthy surprise comic book in the blind bag. I hope that people who get this are like pleased by it and don't feel sort of ripped off. Like, I already have the last 3 issues of Transformers and G.I. Joe. I wanted a mask number one. Also, you got my hopes up very slightly. You and I were communicating earlier this week, and for a moment you thought that this was new material, and I thought, I don't know. And then we saw the press release. And then, Mark, what is the final crazy surprise?
There was, I'll just share a screen as well. Second, there's a fun this one. There's a fun bit, which is that let me have to remove that. I'm just going to share something from the Facebook group. This is not working. Okay, there. From the Facebook group, we had Nathaniel posting what he got from his 4 blind bags, which was 3 copies of Mask Origins 1 and 1 copy of Mask issue 1 with one of the variant covers. So I've seen a few posts not too dissimilar to this. I get the impression that potentially, actually no, that's 4 issues of Mask Origins and 1 issue of something else. Yeah, I get the impression that possibly some of the issues weren't completely evenly distributed. So I think the chances of getting a double are potentially high if you get just a sequential bundle of blind bags altogether.
You had assumed, Mark, that people would be buying a regular copy of Masks number 1 at the very least, in addition to however many blind bags they'd be buying, so that if it turned out that there was some other comic book or issue 2 of Mask, people could still lean back on the regular copy of Mask number 1 that they bought and not be sort of stuck. Well, I can't read this comic because I don't actually have Mask number 1. I do wonder if there are many people out there who got a blind bag, opened it up, it has cover, you know, B or C or D or E or F or G or H, and thought, great, and then didn't post it because it's a little less exciting now that there are these 2 other surprise comic books. Speaking of surprise comic books, Mark, what is the other surprise comic book that one could get from opening the Checkpoint Alpha? Definitely. Checkpoint Alpha says, I want to read Mask. Not sure if I want to add another book to my reading list. Checkpoint Alpha, do it. Mark, what's the other surprise?
The other surprise, we are burying the lead, is the most surprising bit of All, which is that one of the books that you could get inside the blind bag was ROM issue number 1. A brand new issue number 1 from Robert Kirkman and the Void Rivals original creative team with Lorenzo De Felici on art. It's an actual issue that we knew nothing about, featuring a Hasbro Energon Universe character that had not yet been revealed up to this point, unless you solved the mystery of future Void Rivals covers like I did.
Wait, what is that mystery? How did you figure that out?
I spent way too much time staring at the variant covers to Void Rivals issue number 33, which had a sort of blacked out silhouette of a mystery character, trying to figure out who on earth it was.
Okay. I just want to add a little detail here. Mark just said, ROM hadn't been announced as part of the Energon universe. This is a complete and utter surprise, right? All we knew, even Mark and I, people who are paying as much attention to this as we can, and we get weekly emails from Skybound with preview PDFs and announcements about new printings and previews of issues that are about to come out. And very occasionally we can ask Skybound if we can do an interview with one of their nice people for the show. all the Energon universe has been is Void Rivals and G.I. Joe and Transformers. And the big surprise of the last year was that there was this whole other Hasbro brand mask joining. And no one had hinted to us. I think once or twice in a letters page, someone has said, how about ROM? And certainly Mark and I, in talking in a general sense about a previous Hasbro universe, the one at IDW, which also included Action Man and what am I forgetting? Visionaries. But there had been no announcement that ROM was part of the deal or was now part of the deal. There had been no announcement that Skybound was working on this, and there was certainly no announcement that it was the big guy at Skybound, Robert Kirkman, and a founding artist of the Energon universe, Lorenzo De Felici. This does explain sort of what he's been doing while taking an arc off, while taking several arcs off from Void Rivals, right? He's been drawing Red Roots, his own series, his own horror series, and apparently issue number 1 of ROM. I didn't grab this picture, so folks will just have to imagine it. But Chris Ryle, formerly like number 3 guy and number 4 guy and number 6 guy at IDW over the years, who is like the world's biggest ROM fan and who helped make the ROM comic book at IDW happen and wrote it. And then worked a little bit on the ROM Omnibuy for Marvel recently. I think he did an introduction for Volume 3, but like the person in my feed who posted proudly when, you know, each of the ROM omnibus volumes came out in hardcover, Chris Ryle, right, world's biggest ROM fan, just I think yesterday posted a photo of what must be him wearing a very good ROM mask helmet. And then issue 1 of ROM from Marvel, issue 1 of ROM from IDW, and now issue 1 of ROM from Skybound. And sort of like, can't believe it, congratulations. And I think the second thing I thought when this was revealed a few days ago to me, first thing was, wow. And the second was, oh man, Chris Ryle is going to be so psyched.
Very cool.
Mark, are you excited about ROM?
Tim,
am I excited about ROM?
I'm more excited than I was on Tuesday.
Before you knew.
But I mean, yeah, Robert Kirkman and Lorenzo De Felici on our. So yeah, I think at the very least, I'm going to definitely give it a shot. If it had been a different creative team, you know, maybe less so confident, but yeah, they've got a lot of goodwill behind them that they're going to do a good job. Or even if it wasn't them, they'd find a very solid creative team that I would at least, yeah, give a shot.
So all we know so far is that there is this single issue, right? There's no information about an issue 2, an ongoing series, a mini series, a follow-up, any other talent involved. All we know is that there is a single comic book, ROM number 1, in the mask blind bag, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. There has been a press release. It didn't give an awful lot away. But I imagine that there will at least be some sort of reprint of this in some form so that people can get easier access to it outside of this specific edition.
Yes. I wonder, so IDW, there are some elements of ROM that belong to Marvel Comics, specifically the look of the Dire Wraiths, the villains. And when IDW did its own ROM comic, IDW got to use that name, but had to make up a different look for the Dire Wraiths. And I assume something like that is happening here. Although Skybound and Marvel seem to know how to make deals, right? Like that reprint of that Marvel team-up comic book, which had Spider-Man and Invincible. I skipped my sort of overall reaction to this mask blind bag number 1 double reveal, which is Skybound continues to impress me. I know this might sound like I'm sucking up because we do a G.I. Joe podcast and they're making all the G.I. Joe comics, and we occasionally like to have Skybound people on the show. But folks, I want to assure you, both as a store owner and as a fan, I was blown away by the surprises in the Invincible Universe Battle Beast blind bag, and I was blown away this week by these surprises in the Mask blind bag. And, you know, DC and Marvel and some other publishers have now been doing blind bags, and no one does it as well as Skybound.
Absolutely. Okay, moving away from the latest releases to a bit of news about a future release. So the latest Hama files to be announced this time is issue 109, the most shocking issue ever, Death in the Desert, a landmark issue of G.I. Joe that showed no character was truly safe. From writer Larry Hama, artist John Statimer, Randy Emberlin, Tim DeZun, cover by Lee Weeks. Imagine that, a cover by Lee Weeks, and another cover by Chris Mooneyham. A nice little sort of simpatico bit there of Lee Weeks, Chris Mooneyham cover. And here's the Mooneyham. It is it's a little bit actually of an echo of that Wolverine Origins cover, isn't it? It kind of has got a very similar aesthetic. It's an arm with blood trickling down the arm onto the fist, with the hand grasping a large collection of dog tags. Did you do the count? 1, 2,
7
3,
dog
4,
tags.
5, 6, 7.
And the one that we can read in the front belongs to Doc.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This issue always sort of gets me excited and also sad. Like, I always have a very tiny visceral reaction when I see that cover. Like, oh man, it's that crazy issue with the Lee Weeks cover. Like, oh man, that's that issue. That sort of, it didn't break the rules, but it changed the rules. Yeah, I do like this cover. I think it's certainly as different as can be than the regular Lee Weeks cover. I don't, it feels, while it's quite specific to that issue because it has someone's name and it shows dog tags, it's not the kind of cover that, you know, bowls me over. It's more, you know, I want more characters and more background, and, but you know, it is a striking image. Yes, it is an artful and striking image.
Cool. Then another little bit of news. Friend of the show, Mac Ray, who did the amazing Spy Hunter Paperboy crossover at DC.
Folks, if you don't know what that is, that's who wrote that, Mark?
That was written by a certain Mr. Larry Hama.
Yes, and it's not in print. We had to review a digital version.
That's right.
Okay, so this guy has this other book, Strange Combat. Please continue. And
he said there's going to be an announcement at Heroes Con, which I believe is this coming weekend.
Yes.
So look for some news about that. He sort of described it to us as sort of basically G.I. Joe meets dinosaurs. So I very much look forward to more news on that as it happens. Popped over to Paul Pelletier's website and was greeted by this new pin-up that he did of Roblox and Scarlet. So I thought I'd just stick it on screen because it's cool. Why not?
Because he's back. He's drawing this issue of G.I. Joe that we're talking about today.
Yep. And while we're talking just comics news, there's a brand new Deep Six O-ring figure, which I believe has gone for sale on the Super 7 website today. And with this comic book look inspired by the ARAH comics, in specifically all the ships at sea, that look of Deep Six in his on board the ship and not in a giant diving suit with a kind of life preserver and, you know, ribbed
golfer's hat. I'm going to describe this. I'm going to describe this as Deep Six doing his top side cosplay. You're welcome.
Cool. So that was all the news in brief. Let's move on to looking at the covers of issue 329.
Did you do a plot summary or do that second?
We do that afterwards, don't we?
All right,
we do that
covers.
afterwards.
Covers.
Let's have a look at the covers in the gallery.
Cover A of GI.
What I missed out on was the creative team. I think that must have been what through you. We
Oh.
always say the creative team
Yes.
first and then do that.
Yes.
This comes.
Do you want to do that right now? You want to just do that slide?
Yeah, let's do that. So the creative team is writer Larry Hama, artist Paul Pelletier, colorist Francesco Segala, with Sabrina del Grosso, the flatter, letterer Pat Brousseau, editor is Alex Antone, assistant editor Caitlin Chappell, publication design Jillian Crab, production design Abigail Lee, and creative consultant is Diana Davis.
Going slightly out of order, let's not forget inker Tony Cordos. Okay, covers.
I missed that out.
Issue 329, G.I. Joe. Cover A is drawn by Lee Weeks and colored by Dave Stewart. It's two Joes inside Roadblock, who's holding his giant machine gun in one hand and has his ammo belt hanging out of that machine gun and then draped over his shoulder, and then he's holding the sort of slack of it in his other hand. His mouth is open, as if he's reacting or yelling in surprise to something above him, behind him, around him. His weapon is smoking. We are looking up past his waist and up in the ceiling, some kind of large vent or I'm not going to say skylight, elevator shaft, something. Is Dawn Marino in her Dawn Snake Eyes outfit with two swords. And she's getting ready to attack Roadblock. This whole cover, the background is very much in sort of a purpley gray, and the sort of highlight color, I guess the reflected light color on the right side of Roadblock is a similar sort of pale bluish gray. Same thing on the right side of his gun. There's some really nice dry brush on the bottom of the cover under Lee Weeks' signature. If you look at Roadblock's forearm and his elbow at the bottom of the cover, you can see these brush strokes that are made not from a brush that's sort of dripping wet with ink, but from a brush that's had all the excess ink sort of taken off of it. And that could be a digital effect because Lee Weeks does draw digitally, but he also draws on paper, right? Try and get a sketch from him if you can. Cover B is the same image in black and white with no colors. It's just that Lee Weeks artwork. And you can see, in addition to all of Lee Weeks's very smart placement of black inks, he's also knocked in a bunch of gray shadows. So cast shadow behind Dawn Marino, higher up in that shaft, on the front of Roadblock, his face, his torso, his gun, his arm. And the sort of play of light and dark in this in black and white is really great. You have perfect black all the way on the top. Behind the logo, you have sort of the white in this shaft, and coming below it, you have these white highlights on the top of Roadblock, and then you've got the gray on his torso, and then it gets particularly complicated around his gun and the smoke and the sort of splotchy inking there. And I was reminded at how often I was upset that disappointed that IDW would not put an element on a cover in front of the G.I. Joe logo, even when it was small and obvious. And fully two of the 5 letters here that spell out the word G.I. Joe are obstructed by part of Roadblock's weapon or smoke. And I love it. Cover C. Oh yeah, I guess this does. Marcus just put on screen cover to issue 9 from Devil's Due from 2002, drawn by Mike Zeck, where we are looking kind of similarly up past Snake Eyes from waist up, and then sort of hanging in the ceiling against the wall is Storm Shadow with 2 swords drawn, ready to attack. Snake Eyes maybe knows that there's some danger, has an Uzi and a knife at the ready, and he's illuminated from behind because he's just come through a doorway. Not a cover swipe. I don't think a cover homage. I think this is just a coincidence, but this is one of those, you know, if you describe 100 scenarios in Action Comics, you might eventually duplicate, and this is one of those. Cool. Cover C is painted by Steve Beach. It is Snake Eyes on the Silver Mirage, slightly leaning into a turn, holding a sword behind him, steering with one hand. Snake Eyes is wearing more sort of pants and less sort of, this is version 2 of Snake Eyes, but whereas his torso and sleeves are more tight, he's wearing pants that are very, very slightly baggy as opposed to the sort of like skin tight togs of the version 2 action figure. The colors on this cover, there's so much going on, and yet it also sort of reads as very little color. This is not a monochrome image. This is not black and white. But the sort of blue-gray background and the fact that there's so much gray on the tire, the chassis, the windshield, and Snake Eyes himself, right? There's actually not a lot of black, considering that he's in a black costume. And where all the color comes in is all of the blue highlights on the left side and all of the yellow and green highlights on the right side. And then some subtle blue in the headlight of that motorcycle. What's this theme called? Gears of Joe?
Mhm.
These are the 1 in 10. These are the
might be
1 in
the
10.
last one.
Oh, right. Okay. Because there's a new theme starting next month that I think was revealed, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
I can't remember what the next one is, but I'll have a look maybe.
It's funny. My brother and I each had a Silver Mirage, and it had a sidecar. That's what I'm missing. From this image.
Yeah.
Okay, so I do like this image, but part of me wants it to have the complete vehicle, and it would sort of be like having the Ram without the Gatling gun on the side. So points off, Steve Beach. Still a great painting, and if this is a physical object that is for sale, I assume someone out there would pay good money for it. Mark, are there any retailer exclusive covers this month for A Real American Hero?
I tell a lie. There is one more Steve Beach variant next month.
Okay.
Yes. And then it moves to I think a top secret theme. Where you it's a bit of a repeat of a theme. It's with all of the photos and stuff on the desk will be the next theme. Yes, there are a few variant covers this month. The first one I have put in order is Dawn, which is by Michelle Diaz, which is an East Side Comics Virgin variant. That means there's no commentary on Dawn. It is just that it doesn't have a logo on the top of the book. The next one up is also logo-less. It is Storm Shadow by Shimak from Night of Comics, Big Dex Comics. And it's also a Heroes Con exclusive as well. So if you're at Heroes Con, you probably can find that this weekend.
Oh, Snake Eyes is reflected in the sword. I didn't catch that.
Oh, yeah.
When you posted this a week ago. I like this painting. This just sort of looks like like Ultimate's Moon Knight to me. It has all the elements of Storm Shadow, but his face mask is done so detailed, and he's got sort of like the way that his hood tucks in. It's sort of like a collar. I do like this. It doesn't quite read as Storm Shadow. And once again, folks, if Storm Shadow does not have a Cobra logo on his chest, he's just a ninja in white. What's the third one, Mark?
The third one is, hold your breath, the Baroness.
Why are there so many covers of Baroness?
This one seems to be featuring Amy Winehouse as the Baroness. This is from 616 Comics, or the Comics Elite, and the artist is Shikari, and it comes in a few different flavors. This one on screen with a kind of silvery background, a sort of regular with logo and a red background, and also a Virgin variant with a red background. It's quite kinetic. Baroness is posing with some sort of machine gun, firing as she looks over the top of her red sunglasses, and hip swiveled. You know, on the ranking, it's probably towards a slightly higher tier of Baroness in my opinion of the Baroness covers that we do get. Thoughts, Tim?
I think the first one you showed of Dawn and this third one show some good technique and some good anatomy mixed in with some I'd like a little bit more technique and a little bit more anatomy. This machine gun feels a little unresolved. I do appreciate here that Baroness is not ultra skinny. The sort of the diameter of her waist here looks like a normal human being and not a J. Scott Campbell, John Royal, toothpick. But Baroness isn't in this issue, although Dawn is. Storm Shadow's not in this issue, and these variant covers might as well just be like lithographs. Like why have it be on top of a comic book? I'm glad everyone's having a good time making these and selling these and buying these, but they're not quite for me.
Yeah. And Baroness, she's back in black there in the costume. They said, "Can you come back to Cobra?" And she said, "No." But so that is it for that's some Amy Winehouse comedy material there for you, Tim.
And then next month she'll be in a white costume, and it'll be like, "You want to stay in this temperate zone?" And she says, "No, I'm going to the Arctic zone for my variant cover."
Yeah, for my bunny outfit. So that is covers done, which means that we can properly move on to the interior of this issue. And as we do so, we warn that from this point onwards, there will be spoilers ahead.
Watch out! There's spoilers ahead! Turn back before it's too late!
So if you are like Checkpoint Alpha and you've only just got your issue 329, we will not be at all offended if you pause this video, read your comic, and come back to us once you are fully up to speed with the contents.
Checkpoint Alpha said my issue 329s, my 329 issues have arrived. Plural. I wonder how many copies, how many variants. Now is it time for a plot breakdown?
Oh, yes, that's right. So let's get to it and find out what happened on the inside of this particular issue with a plot breakdown.
Plot breakdown.
In his lab on Cobra Island, Dr. Mindbender is looking at AI representations of Snake Eye's memories on the brainwave scanner with Alpha 001. He believes that a trigger has been transplanted into Snake Eyes, Sean Collins, and Dawn Moreno's brain boxes. As Dawn and her team arrive back at the pit, Dawn explains the risk of the Easter egg implanted in her subconscious and volunteers to be locked up as a precaution. Elsewhere, a storm is causing interference, making Snake Eyes and Scarlet unreachable in their cabin in the high Sierras. And elsewhere again, Throwdown is with Helix and Beachhead in Darklonia, and they are on a comms blackout while on a mission to find a terrordrome. They get into a fight with a Darklonian state security agent. And as Dawn and Alpha 001 as Mindbender and Alpha 001 poke about in the attic of Snake Eye's subconscious mind, they discover a literal Easter egg which is activated, which simultaneously triggers the implant in the minds of Dawn, Sean, and Snake Eyes. What will happen next? We'll find out in the next issue. But we won't not be talking about the next issue, we'll be talking about this one. And I'll be asking Tim, what did you think of it?
Overall, I thought this issue was okay. I like Mindbender's new costume. I like his new status quo with Alpha 001. And I think it's fair for Hama to use him. And I really hope in a year there'll be a classified action figure of this Mindbender design. Although I guess they owe us Mindbender. I guess they owe us Mindbender version 2 first. That said, you know, I don't know that the mystery of this attic with Snake Eyes' past and some key props is hitting me as sort of hard, as tantalizing, as interesting, as fun as I want it to. And some of it is because, you know, I'm older and I've read a lot of G.I. Joe comics. You know, the first time I got any taste of Snake Eyes' backstory, and I was reading issues out of order when I started getting the comic in the late 80s, and I'd already missed 89 issues, right? When I did that. So between second prints and tales of, and like not so expensive and expensive back issues, my brother and I were piecing together our collection out of order. But every time I got a bit of, or in a flashback or in a footnote in a new issue, I was blown away. And Snake Eyes' backstory, it's sort of settled now. Yep. And Hama has gone back to it sort of one time. Was it 276? What's the issue? 279? What's the issue with Storm Shadow?
Yeah. The Storm Shadow issue.
Jumping on the cover with the orange background. Not that Hama can't, you know, retroactively invent some more interesting stuff and things that we didn't know and new connections. And I hope that'll happen here. But the actual sort of tantalizing hint from last issue and this issue of, oh, here's this attic. It represents Snake Eyes' subconscious. There are some interesting props there. I feel like I should be really sort of upset and worried that Mindbender and Alpha 001 are there. They're walking around this recreation. And it just sort of didn't hit me like that. I thought, this is interesting. As opposed to like, no, it's like, well, yeah, that's his sister. And Alpha 001 doesn't know who that is.
But we did.
Yeah. And then my sort of other overall reaction is an echo of what we talked about with the previous issue, which is I think there are still interesting things to do with the brainwave scanner, but I don't know what they are, and I don't know if it's this because, you know, it's sort of, here's my analogy. I feel like for many years in the 20-teens and maybe even the early 2020s, Batman comics at DC were hyper militarized, and he would often go to space and time travel and other dimensions, and the Justice League would go to their satellite and other dimensions, and there was other Batmans that he was meeting. Like there's that world where his dad was Batman, and that's fun. But that stuff happened a lot, and like they met each other and traveled to those times and places a lot. And what I really wanted was something like Batman Dark Patterns. I just want Batman solving crime in Gotham City with no teleporters and no boom tubes, and other DC characters can show up, but not too much. And and to me, Batman and Gotham are interesting enough, right? Like he can team up with Superman, he can be in Justice League, he can have a monthly team up with Superman. But in the main Batman book and in Detective, I don't want too much of that. Batman is interesting enough without all that stuff. And Cobra, to bring it back to G.I. Joe, is interesting enough without the brainwave scanner and Dr. Venom. You know, like you name your 3 favorite Cobra characters that we haven't seen in a while. I'll name my 3 favorite Cobra characters we haven't seen in a while, or have seen once recently, but they haven't done a lot. You know, Tomex and Zaymont run this business and right. And, you know, Hama wrote their file card, and it's funny. And, you know, I say this every 15 episodes, Scrap Iron wants to blow up the world. That sounds fun and interesting, right? That sounds dangerous. And whether he's doing it under the auspices of Destro or Cobra Commander or himself, or somehow he gets brainwashed or convinced by Mindbender and Alpha 001, I think it's just enough to have, you know, some Cobra taking over some territories, infiltrating Joe headquarters, Joe's infiltrating Cobra headquarters, Cobra making deals with characters in these fictional countries. But the actual brainwave scanner, I've had enough of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the highs is Paul Pelletier being back on the book. He's really good, and I've seen a lot of very positive reaction to him being on the book. I think he's a popular artist, and he gets I think he gets the story and what's needed from G.I. Joe well. This story itself, it's underwhelming. I think, just to echo what you said, we've got Alpha 001 back. I can live without the Blue Ninjas. Brainwave Scanner, it has been done to death. Them rummaging around in Snake Eye's minds, it feels like it's a retread. They're not, as you say, they're not actually discovering very much very new. It's kind of a greatest hits of these are the things we've seen of Snake Eyes before that are important to him. Might be new to Mindbend, but not to us. And I keep on harking back to this, but we had this tantalizing glimpse from 323, which is 5 issues ago, where we sort of introduced all of these exciting 6 issues ago, all of these exciting Cobras that we've not seen for a long time, and then nothing. So that's the story I want to see. I don't want to see the brainwave scanner. But I think the biggest part of this issue, and we'll sort of maybe dig into it a bit more as we sort of flick through the pages, is I think there's a couple of moments, particularly around Sean, about him it being suggested that he's got Snake Eyes' memories, including the Easter egg, in his subconscious. Which isn't something that's previously been established in it, and it feels just like a bit of an unexplained retcon too far. And maybe they can explain it away and they can retcon it away, but they don't really do that. They kind of rely a little bit on a few lines of dialogue to kind of for us to go with, and I think it's a bit of a step too far, and it takes us out of the story a bit too much. So yeah, that's my high level. Should we do a bit of a flick through?
Sure.
So let's start at the start. So we're on Cobra Island with the new status quo of Dr. Mindbender, who has put his Serpentor schemes to one side and is working with Alpha 001, and they've got this pop-up on the screen, which they're investigating, that's come out of nowhere, of Snake Eyes' subconscious sort of memories in this loft of his mind, attic of his mind. What they do quite nicely on this second page is they do call back to G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, issue number 10, with a little bit more faithfulness. You remember I complained last time that they kind of slightly reinvented that sequence, but here they very much are more leaning into the actual aesthetics of that first appearance of the brainwave scanner with Snake Eyes plugged into it, and kind of even to the extent of arching his back, and it's that kind of retro futury kind of Kirby-esque technology where there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, but who knows what exactly.
Yeah, the shapes. I was going to say Kirby. Also, that you have this is Mike Vosberg drawing some Jack Kirby tech, and that's both in the shapes, but also in the inking. And I know that D'Agostino inked Vosberg, not Vosberg, but the actual way that it's drawn to look metallic, and that you have these sort of ridges, so it looks like Colossus's arm or leg. Mm-hmm. So it's fun that we're now like 3 steps away, because it's Paul Pelletier drawing a thing that Mike Vosberg drew. So I'm thinking about what Mindbender could get out of Snake Eyes' memories, and maybe this is too simple, but I would be happy with something like some access codes to the pit. Although I guess you'd argue, well, these are sort of old Snake Eyes' memories, and those access codes have been updated because it's a different pit, or something to blackmail Snake Eyes, like like a bank routing number, or like something about Snake Eyes' uncle, or something that Snake Eyes' sister was involved. Was she like an anti-war protest? I don't know. But
nudes of Scala.
This seems like to get. I like where this ends up. That Snake Eyes and Dawn and Throwdown are all bad guys and all at the same time and all in different locations. That's really fun. And in fact, right, you and I are talking about this halfway through June when this issue came out. When Larry Hama came to Boston to sign at my store for The Center Holds issue number 1, a comic that I put together that he wrote in February, I said, what issue of G.I. Joe are you working on? And he said, I just turned in 329 or 330. And I said, oh, cool. And he then described in one sentence this plot. Like, oh, well, there's this memory and it's triggered and it's from the brainwave scanner. And so Snake Eyes and Dawn and Throwdown all turn bad. And I thought, awesome. So I have been subtly looking forward to this story since then. And I just wish that the actual how we get there was either more simple. I think just sort of more straightforward. And to make another DC Comics analogy, how many Batmans are there? How many Robins are there? Like how many, like there's the Batman family and how many like Batgirls are there? It's like, well, there are like 3 Batgirls. And there's like 6 Robins, and it's like, well, one died, but he came back, and one isn't Robin anymore, and one retired, but he came back, and then the other is his son. And then also, it's like there's Stephanie Brown, who was like a different character, but she was Robin for 2 weeks. And depending on the comic that you read sort of now or in the last few weeks, they may all show up at the same time, like in continuity without time travel or, dimension hopping. And I was looking at a Dan Mora drawing of all the Super family, right, from a couple years ago. And it's like, well, there's Superman and Supergirl. And it's like, oh, well, all right, well, Lois is Superwoman temporarily. And there's Superboy. And there's New Superman, the guy from China. And then there's their son, who's kind of Superboy also, or like kind of Superman also. And like, depending on the drawing, it's like, is that Superboy or is that Superboy? And so I think, I think this is an elegant solution. I think we just sort of stop in the comic. I think we just sort of stopped talking about Throwdown. I think Throwdown served a really important function when Snake Eyes was dead, and we never quite got there. And then Dawn showed up and is sort of more interesting, where people latched onto her faster, or both. And it's like, no, there's another Batman, and he's a black guy, and he's Lucius Fox's kid, and he's in New York. And that book lasted like a half a year, and then it got another series, and it lasted half a year. And we're just not talking about him right now. The same way that we're just not talking about Scrap Iron. He's out there, but he's just not active right now. And so I think because Snake Eyes is back, and we don't actually need 3 Snake Eyeses, and 2's pushing it, I think we just have Throwdown like not show up for 10 or 20 issues. I'm sorry.
Well, he didn't appear for almost 20 issues.
I want it to happen again. No, that sounds like
40 issues.
That sounds like a punchline, but his costume's really similar, and he can't talk, and there are so many other Joes who are interesting, and I would love them to have a few panels per issue to accomplish stuff. I was so excited to see, Law and Order here for a couple panels. Anyway, I think there's still time and space for this current story to have a lot of awesome moments and to reconcile with it's set up that I'm not loving. But that's a month away. So back to you, Mark.
So actually, on this page here, there's a moment which sort of just took me aback, which is where Mindbender says that the same memory that was from the original Snake Eyes was installed in Dawn Moreno and Sean Collins, which struck me just as a weird thing to see, because the status quo up to this point was that Cobra didn't know who Sean Collins was, apart from all of those times that G.I. Joe characters were calling him Sean when they were on top secret missions. So how is it that Mindbender knows that Sean Collins is Throwdown or one of these Snake Eyes? And the other thing was that one of Throwdown's main characteristics was he was the Snake Eyes who didn't have Snake Eyes' original memories. He was his own person, but had ninja training and had burns and had become mute as a result of it. So there maybe is a way of explaining that, and I'll get to that in a second. But they don't really explain it to the audience, and it sort of comes across as a result just feeling like a bit of an error. So the explainer for how Sean might have.
Let me just spell this out explicitly, Mark. So you're referring to page 2, panel 3, which is sort of divided into half. And on the left half, we see Dawn hooked up into a brainwave scanner. And on the right half, we see, so I guess it's Sean Collins hooked up, right?
Right.
And this panel and the one before it both have rounded edges, meaning that they're flashbacks. And so what you're saying is we have never in a G.I. Joe comic book seen Sean Collins A, strapped into a brainwave scanner, correct? And B, getting Snake Eyes' memories?
Yeah, partly. So in Snake Hunt, part of the story for that, and the sort of where we thought that story was going to go, was that Cobra captured Snake Eyes or Sean, and with the intent of turning him to a sort of a baddie Cobra, and at the same time there was this parallel story where Dawn was having difficulty with her Snake Eyes memories and having two personalities in her subconscious. And it felt like there was a trajectory for that story of Dawn having Snake Eyes' memories taken out of her head and put into Sean's head, so that you had kind of a Snake Eyes.
That's what we thought might happen, and it did not happen.
And it did not happen. It did not happen twice. It didn't happen in Snake Hunt when Throwdown wasn't strapped into a brainwave scanner at all, and then it also didn't happen in the last few issues of A Real American Hero at IDW. Was that called All In? The last arc? And yeah, Greg,
high stakes?
sort of was it High Stakes? Yeah, sort of making the same point.
Maybe High Stakes was just on the cover of like 391 or something. Greg Augustin says, I always thought the end game was Dawn's Snake Eyes memories would get removed and transferred to Sean. Greg Augustin is echoing what you just said, Mark, and continues. Last issue's Throwdown file card says Cobra doesn't know the original Snake Eyes died, so Cobra thinks Sean is Snake Eyes. All right, so Mark, I interrupted you. Please continue.
Right. So there's that point, and the where what you said about Snake Eyes isn't Throwdown has never been strapped into a brainwave scanner is sort of partly true. So this is from issue 298. There's a sequence where Throwdown was strapped into a brainwave scanner by Mindbender, who was started prepping the brainwashing modules ready to alter his programming to make him like a Cobra Snake Eyes. And then there's sort of the appearance of Serpentor Khan sort of disrupts the whole situation, and then in the next issue, we sort of still see Sean in the brainwave scanner, but the process of trying to brainwash him was disrupted, and then Laura, what's she called, 323? Laura, the Crimson Guards woman, rescues Sean and takes him out onto Cobra Island. So we never get a point in that story at which there is a clear point at which there is any sort of uploading or downloading into Sean.
Mark, is there enough of a gap between those two issues that you just showed a page each from, where Snake Eyes is strapped in and then seemingly he's about to get pulled out? Is there enough time between these two that off panel Mindbender flipped the switch, turned it on, and zapped Sean Collins?
Potentially that might be the no prize and the retcon. We don't see it happen, and we've never seen it described as happening. But if you were to try and do some mental gymnastics to explain it, you'd say that this 1 minute or so of time that has elapsed between he's plugged in and the brainwave scanner is sort of warming up, that something happens. Maybe the Easter egg is accelerated as a kind of Trojan horse lurking in the brainwave scanner that jumps across without Mindbender actively doing anything to kind of try and instigate that.
That's a big leap. Well, so Larry Hama has in the past made up very clever things to add context and wrinkles to previously established characters and stories. Larry Hama has also done that to patch errors, right? The sort of the best known one is wait, who died? Crazy Legs?
Sneak Peeks.
Sneak Peek, right.
Death, yeah.
Sneak Peek died, and then later on he's just walking around and he's like, no, I didn't die. And then to sort of put a fine point on it, after a little while, Hama killed him again. So I hope that this is more the former and less the latter.
It just feels like there's too much of a gap that's left unexplained, that because it doesn't explain what has happened, it comes across as either just changing the past or making a mistake.
Here's something. We haven't seen Throwdown in 20 issues, right? If there was just like a half a page scene coming up where Duke says, oh yeah, Throwdown did that mission for us that we haven't talked about, and he got captured for a little while, and then we got him back, and then maybe we have a page or two or a whole issue which sort of explains that and shows that. And it doesn't have to be consequential in and of itself. It can just be, what are certain Joes doing off panel when we don't see them? I mean, what's Law been doing since his solo issue? What was that? Was that 276? I can't remember.
I think all it needed was something like one bubble. Actually, Sean can't speak, but maybe Psych Out could say, we've not been putting Throwdown on any missions because ever since he came back from Cobra Island, he's been having these strange memories of Snake Eyes, or something. It could be really super simple, but there just is this sort of leap that we've got to make,
right,
to kind of go along with the story, and I feel like it sort of takes us out of it too much. And beyond that as well, there's the transmission component of how does the unlocking Easter egg get transmitted to all of the various Snake Eyes at the same time. So Venom, I'm jumping ahead now.
Venom wrote some code and planted something in Snake Eyes back in issue 10. We're back in the teens, and because Venom downloaded Snake Eyes'. When did someone download Snake Eyes' entire memory and feelings? Is that in issue 10, or did Mindbender do that later?
Again, that's a little bit vague as to which point restoration point we're looking at from the various snake eyes. But regardless of the restoration point, if this implant happened in issue 10, and then whichever version of the snake eyes memories, whichever time-stamped version they've got, these 3 new snake eyes, they would have had at least that issue number 10 up to that point, if not a lot beyond. But I think the explanation as to why, if it's not being transmitted as the Easter egg being unlocked, maybe it's a timestamp. It's like in June 2026, the distant future, 42 years from now, or whatever it is, that is when the Easter egg will be unlocked, and it will come through at exactly the same time.
All right, and you've used the word transmission, and I just want to settle on this for a moment because Joe or 7240. Do you have a full name on this commenter, Mark? Is this Joe or Joer?
Joe. This is
Joe. Joe says, I wrote a letter and asked if Mindbender and Alpha 001 caused the egg to alarm, or if it just happened to alarm at that exact time. All right, so Mark, you used a word a minute ago, transmission. So some of what you're trying to track is not how is the Easter egg getting planted, but how is the alarm clock turning on and playing the beep, beep, beep to wake you up, right? So your question is, why is it being activated now? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming when Hama wrote the previous issue, he didn't know, and he was going to figure it out as he wrote this issue or the next issue. But just to put a fine point on this, we don't know sort of how it happens, and we don't know when it happened. I mean, I guess it just happened in the comic. Sorry, we don't know how it happens. I think I'm being overly critical. Actually, I'm just flicking ahead to the actual page. Is this explained?
And they kind of do explain it. That it's the Easter egg page, and it says it's an actual Easter egg. Isn't that too obvious? How does it work? There are no switches or buttons, and why is it ticking? It's a timer, and it's going off right now. Ring. So if it's a timer and it's a timed implant, then it's not being transmitted. Okay. It's just been lurking away in their heads to go off at a specific point in time.
Okay. So we're looking at page 357 14, I think this is. Okay. And Mindbender's holding an egg, and he says it's a timer. And I wonder if the plot called for, and if Paul Pelletier didn't quite draw that kind of kitchen timer, egg timer that is actually, no, I'm serious. That's actually shaped like an egg, and you twist it, you hold it, the top with one hand and the bottom with the other hand, and you twist it, and it has little ridges sort of at the at the equator, not the kind that looks more like a clock that sort of dials clockwise or counterclockwise, but the kind that spins. And yes, we're sort of, yes. Okay. There it is. Mark has a picture of what I just described on his phone. Okay. Anyway, so we spent a lot of time now on this timer and Mindbender and Alpha 001. Joe in the comments says, what a weird coincidence that has been there for years and just happened to go off when they were there to witness it.
But it also did bloop up on their screen as like, huh? Why we're seeing that? So maybe that is part of it. That the reason it has appeared is because it's about to activate, or because they went into the room and opened the chest. They pressed the button for sort of the timer, the countdown to accelerate. Because that's what it feels like, doesn't it? That it feels like it's them somehow activating it because it's coinciding with them going in and finding it. And
this is a meta line here on page, I think it's 14, 15. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yep. When Mindbender says it's an actual Easter egg, and Alpha 001 says, isn't that too obvious? I think that's Hama telling a joke. How does it work? There are no switches or buttons, and why is it ticking? It's like, what is that phenomenon where if you're a scientist observing an experiment, you are also impacting it? I forget what that phenomenon is called. I think this is that. I think it's sort of like there's a tripwire in the room and the timer wasn't going to go off until someone started exploring the room. But also help me out here, because I'm still a little iffy on this. So Mindbender and Alpha 001 are looking at I'm going to say holographic recreation, because I'm having a little hard time with AI recreation. A holographic construct of Snake Eyes' memories downloaded from the original download of Snake Eyes' like full brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a download of his brain from at least issue 10.
Okay, but just to sort of ask this question again, Mark, if you write yes, the observer effect. Thank you, Talking Joe Comics. All right, so Mark, if you write a poem that is like symbolic of who you are as a person, and you make a photocopy, and I take the photocopy, and I show it to my robot friend, but first I scan it and I put it on my computer. So my robot friend and I are sitting in my office looking at my computer.
Scott Tracker?
No, in this example, I'm Mindbender. And we're reading the poem that you wrote about your life. How does, if we like get to like the final word and we mispronounce it, how does that change your copy of the poem that you held on to because you like printed a copy for us and we scanned it, right? This is going back to your question of how is it a transmission if it's a timer? And I understand in my analogy here, a poem is not the same thing as a computer download of memory engrams. All right. So Venom puts a seed, a tripwire in the download, and all these three, he puts a trap and all these three get it, and now it goes off. Let's talk about Darklonia. Hey,
let's find
Beachhead.
a happier place.
Hey, is Helix drawn in the A Real American Hero costume or in the IDW continuity costume? Remember there was that sort of mix up is too strong. Remember there was that sort of
I think this is the
continuity?
Netho Diaz redesign from Silent Option. Right, where do we want to skip to?
Well, there's Duke and Stalker. I like seeing them. Yep. I feel like everyone's drawing Stalker not in his 1982 costume, but did he get like a redesign in like 2003 or 2007 that's based on his 82 costume, but it's a little bit more of a jacket and a little bit less of a sweatshirt. Anyway,
so the gals arrive back at the pit, aka Camp Greer, which I think is the camp above the pit. They're greeted by Duke and Stalker. Duke mostly isn't allowed. He's got some sort of what's he called, tag around his foot, which will bleep if he goes 20 yards outside of the pit. So that's a joke.
Actually, if he goes outside the pit, the timer in the Three Snake Eyes goes off, and everything's fine. If only he would leave the pit.
They go down the elevator. We see the grand inside of the pit with lots of skyscrapers. I had to look at that inside sort of building there and compare it to the flag. I was like, have they got an indoors flag? But no, it's not. It's not a flag. It just, that tower looks a bit like the tower of the flag. And particularly with all of the skyscrapers around it. And then you've got Hound sort of just in front of one of the skyscrapers as well.
No, that's a different universe, sir.
Dawn sort of explains her concern about, that she thinks that something's going on that might turn her into a cobra, volunteers to sort of lock herself away. They do a bit of exposition about what's going on with the other Snake Eyes. One Snake Eyes and Scarlet in the High Sierras in the cabin, and Sean on a mission in Darklonia. And then
Mark, this mission in Darklonia, this is the first we're hearing of it, right?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think we've been back to Darklonia for a little while. So Mindbender is then plugging in and having a snoop around the attic of Snake Eyes' mind's memory. I think a lot of what he sees is just sort of familiar key parts of what Hama thinks about when he thinks is most significant to Snake Eyes, like those sort of studded trench knives, some of his medals. You've got a ninja sword, that famous photo of his sister with the bullet hole through it, which is sort of from the front cover to issue number 26. And then skipping ahead, there's also
don't skip ahead.
Okay,
We're on
all right.
page,
Okay, we won't skip ahead.
We're on page 7. Can you zoom in? Can you zoom in on panel 2?
Computer, use AI to enhance.
No. You read my mind. So in panel 2 on page 7, Alpha 001 is looking at a pair of dress screens on a hanger, and there's a name tag, and it in his inking, Tony Cordos, I think, is following Paul Pelletier's pencils and writing a name, but also kind of obscuring it with whiteout, or doing kind of a chicken scratch that looks sort of like a last name instead of actual letters that you can read. And I don't think we're really supposed to be able to read this. I do see some letters that remind me of a name, like Oliveira, but A, I don't think that's actually what it is. I think it's just sort of a jumble. And B, I don't think this is a case where Hama is teasing us with Snake Eyes' actual name or the name of someone important in his past, if this uniform were to belong to someone else. I think this is just like, you could do a wiggly line the way that you have cartoon characters sign their names, or you could like kind of write some letters and then make it look like they're not really letters. But I did put my eyeballs as close as they could go to this to try and decipher this. And I thought, well, that's not the name that Hama has sort of referred to as someone he knew in Vietnam who Snake Eyes is sort of based on. And that's also not a name that we've sort of established in G.I. Joe comics. I think this is a non-name sort of gibberish placeholder. Mark, what are your thoughts?
I agree. Yeah, I don't think there's necessarily an intent to try and reveal the name. As you say, probably some chicken scratches, which sort of, if you stare at and super zoom, you can try and interpret, but I don't think there's an intent that this is meant to be a reveal of an actual name.
I'm pretty sure that Paul Pelletier, Tony Cordos, Caitlin Chappell, and Alex Antone did not have a passing thought that fans would spend like 5 minutes staring at this panel and talking about it, wondering what it means or doesn't mean. But to those 4 people and to anyone else who might draw such a scene in a G.I. Joe, you know who I bet did know this? I bet Diana Davis knew this and maybe even said so, or there were a million things to do for this issue and like didn't get to say it. Like, make sure you don't put a name there that people are going to freak out over. Joe in the comments says, this could have been a cool chance for Larry to add something new to Snake Eyes' past. I agree. And that's why I was thinking, Snake Eyes' sister, maybe she knew someone who was in the service, or maybe this is like Snake Eyes' uncle, or maybe there was like a decoy thing where for a week he wore someone else's uniform. It can also just be his uniform. But if Mindbender is going to have the sort of evil pleasure of invading Snake Eyes' privacy, albeit in this sort of 3 steps removed holographic way, I want Mindbender to get some leverage out of it besides just the Easter egg, the time bomb going off, because this feels so particular. And if like three Joes are running around being evil, and then Mindbender in the next issue is like, okay, Alpha 001, I don't know what happened. Let's unplug and go back to our other diabolical plans. It's like, well, but then was that sort of an accident? I want their evil plans to be more purposeful. Okay, so
yeah, the reveal we do get is a follow up on some of the posters on the wall from last time as well. We get to see Snake Eyes' taste in music, which includes Creedence Clearwater Revival and The Doors.
I think it's fair to say that many people who were of the age where they would go to Vietnam when Snake Eyes did might own those albums. We do see here, if you go back to the previous page, we see Larry Hama continuing to sort of like be vague about the time, because when G.I. Joe was being published by Marvel in the 80s, you could say Vietnam. And I don't think they ever said like 1973 necessarily, maybe once. But now, of course, the timeline doesn't quite work, that these characters haven't really aged. And, Snake Eyes would not be a youngish person in G.I. Joe and having also served in Vietnam. So Mindbender is not specifically saying, hey, it's some albums from the late 60s, right? And this kid went to Vietnam. What he's saying is someone at that time would have had some of a time would have had some albums of that time. Okay. Cool.
So then we are in the High Sierras at Snake Eyes' cabin. He's roasting rabbits for dinner. This is a reoccurring thing, I think, I think it was back in 302. He was at his cabin roasting some rabbits, and also when back in the Snake Eyes Origins issues, in like issue 26 or 27, there's that moment where Hawk goes to find Snake Eyes, and he's comes through the doorway holding some rabbits, I think.
This is something that Hama can go back to, and I don't feel like he's overdoing it. I think if you have a cabin in the Sierras and you hunt for rabbits once, you might do it several times. But if I get hooked into a brainwave scanner, I don't know that my memories are going to get downloaded all 3 times.
And there's a scratch at the door. Last time it was some blue ninjas attacking. This time it is timber. Again, it feels like something that's not completely new. We've seen a little bit of that before. So he's in the rain, and then we are in Darklonia, and Greg reminds us that we have been recently in Darklonia in issue 325. That was on the Darklonian border.
Just to go back to those 2 previous pages, since you and I have been keeping track of this, Snake Eyes can talk now. Hama tends to have him say very little, and in these 2 pages, he says nothing.
Oh, right, yes. Yes, he doesn't say anything on these particular pages. Correct. Yes. He does a little bit later.
Now we're in Darklonia. Thank you for that fact check, Greg. And just remind me, all right, so we've got, in this Jeep, we've got Helix and Beachhead, and I very much appreciate that Beachhead is wearing a cap that somewhat kind of refers to his regular costume. I always like it, like if you have a bunch of Joes in civilian clothes, it's like, cheat a little bit and make their civilian clothes kind of the same colors that they would be if they were. Yeah,
could it have been a green sort of hat though?
Yes.
Green beanie.
Yes, it could have been. And then remind me, Throwdown has a realistic mask that he wears.
That's right.
So that you can't see the burn marks on his face, because either they don't want to freak out their handler, or because they're undercover.
Yeah, possibly they could have done something to make that a little bit clearer. Actually, I kind of knew it in the back of my head, but it didn't sort of jump to the forefront. But maybe if they just showed the mask riding up a little bit on his neck or something like that, that might have been an interesting touch to remind us.
There's that line of Scarlett's in the Tony Salmon's short story in Yearbook 4. Fix your mask. Right? When they stop at the convenience store to get talcum powder. Yep. I think of that story a lot because I own 2 pages from it. Okay.
So Bogdan
finally
from the
someone gets shot.
Bogdan from the Darklonian Resistance is their driver. I wondered to myself if that was Roadblock, first of all, drawn in a kind of slightly different way, but it didn't throw me too much. I figured it out, and he's stopped. He's asked for his papers, and he is shot. But it's slightly off panel. They don't show the full gore, but 2 panels later, there's a guy who's getting a knife thrown to the throat with just blood and gore.
Yes, and a great sound effect, ka-shunk. I gotta say and then the knife gets pulled out, and there's a blood spurt like that. These 2 panels would absolutely not have been published this way at IDW, and I don't know if IDW would have said to the artist, let's obscure that with some black ink, or can you draw that differently, or if Hasbro would have said, no, please redraw that. Or if the artist, having already made a few changes like that, would have preemptively just not drawn it like this. But just remember that this is kind of why we have Blue Ninja and Cyborg Cobra anyway, so that they can get dismembered and shot, because the G.I. Joe comic book in the 2020s sort of wants that. And I don't know what the math formula is. The audience doesn't quite want it, or Hasbro is a little skittish, or times have changed. And if this stuff wouldn't have been portrayed this way in the 80s, it's more acceptable now, but you still have this comic that's like T for teen, but it's sort of like, but it's for kids. So I was a little surprised and very excited to see 4 people, not the good guy's friend. That made me sad. But I was surprised and a little excited to see 4 people die in such a visceral way on this one page. And then Sean Throwdown does it again. And Mark, what's that sound effect?
Ka-chunk.
But it's got an exclamation mark. Can you do that again with feeling?
Ka-chunk.
And that's like in the center of his nose, between his eyes. Anyway, I don't want violence for violence sake in a G.I. Joe comic, but I do, they're a special missions force, and they're up against some terrorists, and also evil resistance fighters and despots and warlords, and robots. And if I go 10 pages of a G.I. Joe comic with some characters talking in base and going through holograms of other people's memories and opening the door for a wolf, I'm going to start to get antsy. And if not shooting and daggers to the face, I want to see fighting, because this is an action comic. So I was excited to see this scene, and bummed that their handler got taken out after only 3 panels of dialogue. 2 panels of dialogue.
We get some real nitpicking from Greg here. Sean has the knife in his left hand, but throws it with his right. I think I'll allow that he's allowed to, in between panels, transfer the knife from one hand to another. And Joe has a great observation here that Helix shouts, "Toss me his gun, Sean." And Joe notes, "Shout out to Larry for the restraint to write just gun instead of the brand, caliber, and modifications."
You know that earlier in the scene, before we cut in, they were all like describing to each other their specific makes and models and calibers. So I'm sure it happened in story, if not for presentation to us. I'm of all the things that are happening in this issue, this scene is the one that has me the most excited, because I like all the characters, and in a very general sense, I like all the things that are happening, even though I don't love the sort of specifics of Snake Eyes' memories and Mindbender. I think this conceit where the 3 Snake Eyes is all at the same time turn evil is really fun. I think how we got there is too complicated. But Dawn running amok in Joe headquarters, I like that. But we have had some sort of infiltrations twice recently in the pit, So while I'm sure it could be awesome, it does feel familiar. And anyway, in terms of sort of like what's most G.I. Joe to me, a couple Joes behind enemy lines, where it's not just Darklonia, but it's also near Barovia, and I don't know what, who they're going to come up against and what the surprises are and how much Cobra's involved. I mean, they say they're looking for Terradromes, right? So it is Blue Ninja related. Okay, so it could veer back into that direction where I'm like, oh, Blue Ninjas. But in terms of
you have read this issue, right?
in terms of Joe's in the woods with machine guns and knives and swords,
this bit is cool.
Yes, it's like give me next issue. Next issue's 16 pages of this scenario where the two Joes are like trying to run away from Throwdown and then also like bump into some Blue Ninja and a Terradrome. I think I'll be happy.
Yeah, and to Greg's point earlier, it wasn't that long ago we had issue 325, which was very much grounded military on the borders of Darklonia. So extend that sequence, make it a full issue, why not? Back in Snake Eyes' AI generated memories, we're sort of introduced to some sort of key totems that sort of represent important elements of Snake Eyes' history. The weasel skulls that he got from Quinn in issue number 2. His warm M60 from his time in Vietnam when they talked about
the flashbacks in 26.
Yeah, with him, firing, so many, violently. I don't know what the right word is, but to such an extent that the barrel glowed, white, and all of the rest of it. And you need protective gloves to handle it. And then that sort of core memory of Snake Eyes and Scarlet on the Staten Island ferry with the hot dogs and coffees, and inside the locker that those hot dogs are on is the literal Easter egg timer, which rings out with a ring as it is activated. And as it is activated,
wait, go back.
Okay.
Alpha 001 says, "Is that an egg?" And Mindbender says, "An actual Easter egg, but it's just a white egg."
Mm-hmm.
So I think what Mindbender would be saying is, "Oh, it's a hard-boiled egg." But for it to be an actual Easter egg, wouldn't it need to be like light blue or painted or something? Right? This is a nitpick, but I feel like there's a slight miscommunication here with plot, art, and color. Because for that to be an egg, there need to be like some Easter. For that to be an Easter egg,
element to it.
Yeah, some Easter trappings. Okay, all right. So the next page.
But Easter egg also does mean a hidden thing, and
Right, but he says an actual Easter egg. He doesn't say a metaphorical Easter egg. The hidden thing is a metaphorical Easter egg, and an egg that a parent or guardian hides outside for a kid to find is an actual Easter egg.
Wow.
Put on my jerk hat.
Who would have thought? So the Easter egg activation, we can see, that panel of dawn. The background is goes all red, signaling, a moment of almost violence as her mind is attacked by this thing, and then we sort of cut away to sort of see the aftermath of that of the security cameras in the in the rest of the pit with our key crew of Duke, Stalker, and Mainframe,
Mark,
who are bathed in the light of their monitors.
Are there some sound effects missing in this first panel? Because
on this page,
yes, because 2 panels ago, Dawn hears something that only she can hear, and then in the next panel, the background is knocked out red because she is panicking and in pain. But then you turn the page and Duke says, "What just happened?" And Stalker says, somebody hit the panic button. And Mainframe says, it's triggering facility alert and initiating lockdown. And I feel like either the camera needs to be slightly behind them to show what they see on the monitor. And it's like alert, alert, alert. Or their blue tones should be all orange and red tones. Or like awooga, awooga. I feel like something is missing here, color and or sound effects, because, and like, they don't know why until 2 panels later, when Mainframe pulls up the feed to show Unconscious Law's hand on the panic button. The literal, not metaphorical, panic button. Interestingly enough, panic button painted like an Easter egg. No.
It's in closer to Easter egg.
It does have yes. Greg Augustin, I believe, is also voting yes for an awooga klaxon. I would also take a sort of scary male robot voice that's like lockdown, lockdown, lockdown. But you folks, you pick your preferred onomatopoeia for the base is reacting to the thing that happened off panel, and maybe it's just the red lights.
Yeah.
But I feel like this whole scene now needs to be in red lights.
Very good. And then we get we're back in Dark Colonia. As you say, I think Helix is now in her. They've all had a outfit change, not just Helix, but they're all in their Joe costumes. I think that is the Nitho Diaz version of the Helix costume, which is a bit more sort of skin tight.
Wait, there it is.
A bit like a wetsuit.
There's the awooga. Oh, it landed on the wrong page. This is not an error. I'm making a joke. At the bottom of page 2019, 18, 17, at the bottom of page 17, Beachhead says, the alarm is sounding. The sensors have picked us up already. And it says awooga. And I really wish I could copy and paste that. Not cut it and paste, copy and paste it. And put it sort of over Duke's head on the previous page.
Okay, let's see if we can get that to work, Tim. Oh no, we've pasted it in the top left of the next page.
Actually, now that Greg Augustin and I have gone back and forth on sound effects, I actually do think just doing some color for that scene in the pit with the computers would be enough. And if you anyway, all right, so. The 3 Joes in Darklonia have made it to the Terrordrome, and here's a sort of a subtler Larry Hama-ism. Beachhead says,
this is the bit where they've cleared a kill zone all around the drone.
Yes, go back to the previous page. You're on 18. Go back to 17. In the middle panel, there are 3 silhouettes, and the one that's talking, because it's got to be Beachhead, and says, they've cleared a kill zone all around the drone. This means they're loaded with sensors. No sneaking up on that. And you can see, I'm sure that this is a line in Larry Hama's plot to Paul Pelletier, like draw the Terrordrome, but there's just sort of flat ground around it where there aren't any trees, or the trees have been cut back. And this is the kind of small detail which makes me really like this comic book and really like Larry Hama's writing, because you don't need this detail. They're not going to sneak any further, because the Blue Ninjas just rush them immediately when you turn the page, right? And this may become important in the next issue with sort of how they escape, or how there is cover or isn't cover. But I really like this detail where Hama's thinking about, how would these agents in the Terrordrome make it harder to be snuck up on. And then on the next page, 18, on page 18, Paul Pelletier has 2 really nice bits of body language where Throwdown sort of doubles over in pain when the mental alarm goes off, and we get that same red background knockout. And then in the next panel, he's like staggered forward 20 steps, and his pose looks very contorted, uncomfortable, sort of almost zombie-like. And I'm looking forward to the next issue when Throwdown in pain takes out those blue ninjas.
Gonna lay down on the blingers, but we don't get to see that. We skip ahead to the third Snake Eyes, which is the cloned talking Snake Eyes, who is able to talk on this page, and also make noises of pain as he is turned. So let's remind ourselves of the Snake Eyes talking jingle. Snake Eyes talking, Snake Eyes talking about things he wants to say. This week he wants to say, I was, run!
And then you turn the page and he says one more thing.
Oh, yeah, he does. He says, run.
So this is a nice bit where the scene, Timber didn't have to enter the scene. The scene would have played out similarly if Scarlet and Snake Eyes were having food, and then Snake Eyes gets turned evil and he panics and he can warn her off. But the scene has an added resonance if it's not just the two of them, but it's the three of them, sort of the whole family. And also you get this added detail where on the last page, Timber can growl at Snake Eyes, right? And you see this convention when, like, there's actually a robot, like in the Terminator movie, right? It's like the dogs are sniffing. It's like, is this a real person or is this a Terminator in a skin suit? Or, like at airport security lines, you have bomb sniffing dogs. And I don't know that Timber's going to change the scene in the next issue much, with Scarlet sort of defending herself and trying to knock out Snake Eyes without harming him too much. I don't think Larry Hama is going to go as far as having evil Snake Eyes harm Timber. Oh, although it is on the cover. There's some threat there. Huh. Well, anyway, but just this second to last panel where Scarlet doesn't know what's happening, but the animal that can sense danger, or that someone is actually an endoskeleton inside a skin suit, or a cloned ninja who's been turned evil, can say grrr. And that's a small detail that I like. Here's a big detail that I like. In the final panel, I don't know exactly if this is Paul Pelletier's decision or if this is color artist Francesco Segala's decision. But is it Francesco? Have we been saying it wrong the whole time? In the final panel, so Snake Eyes is leaning slightly back from us. The camera is sort of low. The camera's at like 3 feet because Scarlet is kneeling to hold back Timber. And there's this shadow that's been dropped completely over Snake Eyes' head and shoulders and top part of his torso and his arms. And then listener viewer Joe says, love that bottom panel, straight out of a horror comic. And what Segala has done here is he's sort of bleached Scarlet, and to a lesser extent Snake Eyes, as if there is like an added light in the room, sort of right in front of the camera, bleaching them. And then Segala has thrown a shadow on the wall behind them, and then put two big rectangular sort of yellow shapes behind them, as if this is like lightning striking outside, and this is light coming in through the window that we see 2 panels above.
Yeah, they've established, there's storm, and on the panel 1 of this page, there's lightning through that window. So this is lightning cracking again and illuminating them with this sort of bright, sort of bleaching flash. That's nice detail.
So at first I thought it was more emotional, and now in talking through it, I realized that it is physical and literal. It's actually a light source happening outside at this moment during the rainstorm. And listener viewer Joe is right. This is a horror moment where you have a character in a cabin in the woods on a mountain. And you have lightning, and so you get this like flicker on their face or this strobe where for a moment you can see them and then for a moment you can't, and maybe you have the added sort of on off of the sound of, you know, thunder with the flicker of the lightning as this punctuation where, you know, you don't see them and then you see them for just a moment and they got a scary face, whatever it is. And the comics version here, where you only have a few panels and not continuous seconds and frames, is you have sort of Snake Eyes' eyes. They're not glowing. They're just not inked out. So you have this sort of editorialized exaggeration where we can see his eyes, even though for the moment you kind of probably wouldn't. But the fact that he is faceless in the scene because he's in shadow when he says run, and look at the placement of the 3 letters of run. Look what Pat Brousseau is doing. It's, you know, when zombies talk, you had that sort of dribble icicle effect on the bottom of a word balloon. This is doing that without doing that, because it's the letters that have been distressed in their placement and less, and not so the oval of the word balloon. Plus the font of run is bigger than normal. So he's not yelling, but he's sort of saying it forcefully. And there's not an exclamation mark. So he's not yelling, he's saying it forcefully. Folks, you can do a lot with 3 letters, a period, and a word balloon without changing the character of the outer word balloon. Mark, back to you.
Yeah, so I think that's that issue. Just to move on to the letters page, there is a very long letter from an Australian reader who wrote in, Eric Harper, sort of reflecting on his memories of G.I. Joe, the comic, growing up and its importance to him, and how he had written to Larry Hama and the letter page back in the day, sort of asking about a specific plot point, because, you know, to your point earlier, you know, we didn't necessarily get the full story, and there wasn't an easy way of finding out those plot gaps. If you missed the issue and you didn't have a local comic store with great back issues, sometimes you wouldn't know what happened, and maybe you try and search the issues and find them in drips and drabs, and the story would kind of reveal itself. It was a long letter, possibly the longest letter in the pages of ARAH ever, about 2.5 pages, to Joe's point, longest letter ever. And I've got a cool thing for you, Tim. Writer Eric Harper.
Eric Harper is a Talking Joe listener.
He is, and he sent us a picture of the postcard that he received with this wonderful Mike Vosberg art that was printed up for Larry Hama to do these little replies back to the people that wrote in.
Let me tee this up. From Eric Harper's letter in this new issue of G.I. Joe, he says, despite writing in and knowing there was not much chance of getting published in the letters page during the peak of Real American Heroes Marvel run, I did one day, after a terrible day at school, come back to the most amazing and unexpected thing. It was a G.I. Joe postcard handwritten by Larry. My mind was blown, and I know I was probably one of hundreds of kids he took the time to respond to. I still have that postcard. And yes, if you're not watching, folks, if you're listening, Mark has just put an image of this postcard, which Eric Harper sent us between the issue coming out and this episode right now. And it is a drawing of Hawk and Scarlet and Snake Eyes. Hawk is saluting, Scarlet is waving, Snake Eyes is thumbs upping. And on the left side, it's got a sentence of legalese for who owns G.I. Joe, and there's a word balloon, and Hawk is saying, and this is the standard postcard that Larry had printed up, that he would write a few, I don't know the number, 10 dozens a month to some kids who wrote in to the letters page. And Hawk here is saying, this is part of the printed part, "Hey Trooper, thanks for thinking of us. All the best from your buddies in the pit." And in Larry Hama's pen handwriting, it says, Mark?
Eric, the skeleton behind the waterfall is the original Fred. Unfortunately, the wrong clothes were drawn on him. Larry Hama.
So Hama is fixing a continuity error, or maybe I don't know if it's a coloring error or a drawing and coloring error. So one person out of the 200,000 who read that issue got a fact check.
And this postcard was posted all the way to Eric in New South Wales, Australia, from Marvel Comics on Park Avenue South, New York.
Is that postmark? Is that February 1990? I am impressed. Oh, that's cute. I don't think I've seen the fronts of these, only the backs. I think I've seen the backs of these, only the fronts. The return address is Marvel in New York, but it has the G.I. Joe logo, and atop that it says non-classified personnel mail from. So it's a bit of this illusion that you're getting an actual piece of mail from the actual G.I. Joe team, if it really existed, and not someone working at Marvel Comics. I'm impressed that Marvel posted this all the way to another country. If you had asked me, I would have guessed when Hama wrote these postcards every month for many years, I would have guessed that Marvel was only paying for, U.S. mail postage stamps to the 50 states plus territories. But of course, G.I. Joe was a steady seller in plenty of other countries. And so Marvel's spending a little bit of extra money here to interact with, or maybe Hama did it from his own pocket. Anyway, Eric, thank you for congratulations on getting not just a letter, but such a big letter in the letters page, getting that printed. Thank you for listening, and thank you for reaching out and sharing. What a fun extra for us for this episode.
Absolutely. We get another great little bio and pin-up in the back of the book, as we have been for the last few issues, illustrated by Chris Mooneyham. This one is codename Mongoose. It gives the background and sort of chimes with what we know of Mongoose. But eagle-eyed listener, viewer, Greg Augustin, who knows a thing or two about file cards, having written 2 books and one more on the way about them, noticed significant issue which you might call an error. Tim?
Is it that now he's a ranger?
I don't know if that was it.
Oh, well, I give up. What is it?
So here is how he was introduced back in his first appearance in the pages of A Real American Hero from IDW. And he introduced himself as Naif Nasir, codename Mongoose. On this file card, he's called Yusuf, is it Mulham?
Mualam?
Mualam.
Yes, so he has a different name. I wonder if this is an error, or if this is like in that Law Spotlight issue at the end of IDW's run, when Law refers to himself not with the name that he had in his file card, but sort of as Kirk Bazigian, the actual Hasbro employee who the figure was sculpted as. And at the time we were like, that's an error. And then Diana Davis said, no, that was on purpose, guys. And which I take your point. As a little not memorial, what's the word? As a little tribute. Honor, as a little tribute. Yes. So I wonder if this is Hama changing his mind, or shifting the name to link up to something else, as opposed to just forgetting and having a separate name. Greg Augustin chimes in one more time. Mongoose, as Ranger qualified, is new, as I could tell.
I think the most we've seen of Mongoose's background to date was in, I want to say issue 287, the issue illustrated by Billy Penn, where they had some of the newbies and they had some flashback sequences to their past.
Then we get an ad for this Invincible fighting game, and then we get an ad for Terminal, which is a next ongoing monthly co-written by Kirkman and Joe Casey, and drawn in rotating arcs by Andy Kubert and David Finch and Arthur Adams, and colored by Dave McCaig. And I don't know if this is going to be the sort of hit that Skybound is setting up by saying, first there was Walking Dead, then Invincible, then the Energon universe. I hope it's this big. of a hit. But this is to say, this is a big new monthly. It's like a superhero thing. And folks, this is why Andy Kubert is no longer drawing G.I. Joe covers, right? Because he's contributing to a monthly book, and Skybound just needs him to be able to focus on that, doing covers, drawing pages, and I think doing a little bit of promotion. And
will it be the next X-Men or will it be the next Sovereign 7, Tim?
I think it's gonna be the next
Somewhere
X-Men.
in the middle.
No, I think it's gonna be the next X-Men. The question is
Okay.
which X-Men? Is it gonna be the next, X-Men Blue, X-Men Gold, X-Men Red? Is it gonna be the next Jim Lee
X-Men
1990?
Extreme.
I believe the title is Extreme X-Men. Is it going to be the next 1991 Jim Lee adjectiveless X-Men? Is it going to be the Jed McKay 2025 adjectiveless X-Men? Hard to tell. But this is interesting, folks, because Robert Kirkman is writing stuff analog to G.I. Joe right now in the Energon universe, and Joe Casey wrote G.I. Joe America's Elite, and Andy Kubert used to and recently did a bunch of G.I. Joe covers. And I think, did we learn this, Mark? We've never seen it, that David Finch, I think, drew a G.I. Joe piece, which
part of this pitch document.
As part of Energy,
and then he did
Skybound's pitch to Hasbro. And then he did some covers when the new monthly G.I. Joe Energon universe started. And then Arthur Adams has done, is this one Baroness cover, or am I just thinking of some pinups he's done at conventions?
Yeah, one Baroness cover. Yep.
One Baroness cover. And Dave McCaig has colored, I think, 2 G.I. Joe covers on top of David Finch for the Energon universe. So I don't want to go as far as saying it's all G.I. Joe Superstar alums. It's just exciting that Skybound, which has been on kind of a hot streak for 15 years, is launching a major new thing with some really exciting talent. And also it's going to be violent. I'm going to read it.
And a month from now, July the 8th, 2026, will be the next issue. Following up on this story of the brainwashed Snake Eyes and we will cover it when it comes out. Out next week is G.I. Joe issue 20, I think 3. So that's the second part of the Crystal Ball Risk story. We will also be here to cover that next week.
And then the week after that, we won't have an episode because we'll be at a convention.
We will be in Augusta, Georgia, Tim, talking with the people there and hopefully some of the illustrious guests, such as Mr. Larry Hama, Rod Wiggum, and artist Chris Mooneyham, as well as many more besides. We will be in the place where all of the cool kids hang out, the vestibule, just near the registration desk. We will have a table there, but we'll also be mingling around. We won't be chained to our desk. We'll be going to panels, be talking to people. We'll be doing all sorts, but we've got lots of cool things to give away. And Tim, I've got a brand new thing that I've done to give away. I will bring along some Rod Wiggum prints of the artwork that I had commissioned.
Wow.
Snake Eyes from issue 30.
Wait, you're off mic. Lean in. What is it again?
It is a commission that I had done by Rod Wiggum, coloured by colorist Simon Gower, and it is a sort of a montage piece of Snake Eyes in his cabin under siege from issue number 31 of A Real American Hero that I had drawn by Rod Wiggum.
So it's a new piece of art that represents a scene that happened in your first issue that you ever bought.
My favorite issue that I ever
Your
bought.
favorite issue that you ever bought. Folks, we will, in addition to talking to Hama and Mooneyham and Wiggum, we'll also talk to you. But please pretend that we're face blind, and you probably know our names, but I can't speak for Mark. I may not know your name. So if you come up and you say, "Hey, Tim," And then there's this pregnant pause. And I'm like, oh, this must be a Talking Joe listener. Please tell me your name.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah,
I would like
I
to
think-
say, hi, Mark, as opposed to, hi there.
Yeah. I don't think I'm exaggerating too much, but I'm not entirely sure that Tim would recognize me if I wasn't wearing this hat. So do help him.
Yeah, it's true.
Cool. So Tim, where can you be found when you're not talking to me about G.I. Joe comic books or visiting G.I. Joe comic conventions?
YouTube channel, Atomic Abe, Hub Comics. That's a brick and mortar store. And my blog, a realamericanbook.com.
Good. And you can find Talking Joe at talkingjoe.co.uk. That is the website that links you to all of the places we can be found, including our TeePublic store. There will be another a sale starting, I believe, tomorrow, Saturday. And you've got up to 40% off the t-shirt. So it's a good time to buy when they're running their regular sales. I imagine the type of cool people that would wear a Talking Joe t-shirt are our Patreon members, like Richard, Sam, Christopher, Shane, Simon, Chris, Joe, Craig, D, Shane V2. This one, there was 3 of him all along, and he's been brainwashed. Infinite Entertainment, Gary V, Coldroff B, Squishy, Matt, Edu B, and Jonathan, our latest member. They're getting early and ad-free access to episodes, as well as some exclusive content. They got to see my essay about why Rom is the secret silhouette character on the front cover to Void Rivals issue 33 before anyone else. So was there something else that I was gonna?
The blind bags.
There's the blind bags. I'll be giving those away at Joe Fest.
What do people have to do to get a blind bag with fun surprises from you, Mark?
They have to pay attention. We'll be doing regular drops across the weekend, and so I think putting them in some secret places as well. But I think we'll put a little sign on our table which says when our next blind bag drop will be. And yeah, just pay attention to our socials. So, join us over on Twitter and on our Facebook group, and I'll try and keep people up to date with things that I revealed. I put this one on this. This was the thing that I almost forgot, Tim. There's this little graphic here, which was a prompt for you to talk to.
Yes, just one more reminder. Here's a detail from the Joe Quinones cover of the Center Holds issue 4. Which just came out in stores this week. Now you can buy all 4 and read the story all at once. Listener Joe is commenting again on the bottom of the screen. Thank you, Joe. And yes.
Cool. So I think that is us done, Tim. But before we go, it's been a show. There's been a lot of thought. There's been a lot of discussion, but there's probably some poignant words of wisdom that you would like to finish on.
Nobody beats Talking Joe, an international podcast.
Insightful.